A scandal has blown up on social media over the last few weeks that is tied to high-powered Washington, D.C. insiders. Welcome to SkyWatchTV. Today is Monday, December 5th of 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. It's a special broadcast today because we want to analyze this scandal and then suggest some positive responses to it. Joining me in studio is the host of Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck and the co-author of the new book, Abaddon Ascending. One of these days I'll pronounce it correctly, Josh Peck.
Hey, Derek, good to be here.
And the man who makes me look good on camera every day for the daily updates on SkyWatchTV. He's the man who edits and produces the daily program. He's also the host of the Sharpening Report and Truth Frequency Radio, a program of Truth Frequency Radio, Jake Ruchotzke.
Thank you, Derek.
The scandal we're talking about has picked up the name on social media, Pizzagate. And if you are on social media and you search for hashtag Pizzagate, you'll find an awful lot of people posting and talking about it. This is something that blew up back a couple of months ago, connected to a popular pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C. called Comet Pizza or Comet Ping Pong. In a nutshell, and it's tied to the releases of emails from Hillary Clinton's, the chair of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, John Podesta. The emails that were released connected to this particular restaurant and the owner of this restaurant. And when people began digging into what they perceived as strange, perhaps code words in the email and symbols and logos connected with this restaurant, developed a theory that perhaps there was a pedophile ring centered around this restaurant. Now, fellas, you guys have talked with other researchers in this. None of us have specifically focused on the research here. To this point, I haven't wanted to bring the story onto SkyWatchTV because, in my view, and this is from the perspective of somebody who began in news, professional news in 1980. It hasn't been my career all through my adult life, but I know a little bit about journalistic standards. I also know a little bit about standards of evidence. That said, going back 11 years when Sharon and I began our podcast, PID Radio, which stands for Peering into Darkness, we began looking at scandals similar to this one here and bringing out, the work of other researchers and discussing it, because there is a consistent thread among the global elites that goes back, I think, to ancient times of the use and abuse of children.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in my judgment, the evidence that has come forward thus far regarding this story, and the reason I'm bringing this up, by the way, is that over the weekend, a gentleman was arrested in Washington, D.C., a man described as in his early 20s who showed up at this restaurant, Comet Pizza, with a rifle, announced that he was there to self-investigate the Pizzagate scandal, fired a round into the floor, was arrested by police without incident, thankfully. So this is now blown up beyond the realm of internet conspiracy theory to a story that the New York Times, the Washington Post, and other major media outlets have addressed because of the attention it's getting on social media. But now you've got a case where somebody actually carried a weapon into the restaurant based on what he's been reading. But in my judgment, the evidence yet doesn't connect any specific people to any specific criminal activity.
Right.
And it disturbs me that there are those allegations that are being made. Now, you guys have looked at this, you've talked with other researchers. What is the sense that you're getting here? What are some of the things that are raising red flags, but how far can we take it?
Well, there certainly is a lot of opinion, and we could call it evidence that raise red flags, but we do have to remember some things. First, we do live in a country where if somebody's accused of a crime, they're innocent until proven guilty. But also, and this is why it's so important to be our own researchers and not let other people tell us what to think or what to believe. We all have freedom of thought. We all have the ability to look up this stuff. One thing that I noticed right away, one of the Podesta emails from the WikiLeaks that was released in the WikiLeaks thing, one of the Podesta emails that's commonly used to support these code words is actually taken out of an entire thread. So when you just look at the one single email, yes, it does seem to use some of these code words, and it does look suspect. But when you actually read it in context throughout the whole thread, it falls apart. And it doesn't hold water. So I would encourage people to look into it yourself. And I'm not saying that nothing's going on. It very well could be. And there's other things that we might not know about yet. But at least for right now, there's not enough evidence either way. And it definitely shouldn't warrant somebody taking violent action against other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my take, Derek, has been in the past is if something is so ambiguous that you have to read into it and read codes and do all this stuff, when you chase a rabbit down that hole, you're going to chase it forever, because if there is something to it, it's going to be very hard to nail down specifically what when it's that loosely just clues, and if there is nothing to it, you're never going to reach the bottom of it, and you're going to continue this downward spiral down this rabbit hole. This is how Mandela effect and a lot of these other things have taken off, because clearly there's nothing to it. It's more or less like a psyop. I'm not saying this is a psyop, but there's not enough yet to really warrant anything serious to this. If there were actual evidence, or like you said, actual victims, that's when it's something you really want to look at.
Well, that's one of the things that's bothered me about this case is that in previous cases, and we'll mention some of these here in just a bit, because this is something that, again, has crossed my radar for the last 11 or 12 years as we've looked into the workings of the enemy, and capital E, enemy. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of spiritual darkness.
That's right.
The human agents are useful idiots for those principalities and powers. There haven't been any connections yet to any victims, any alleged victims. And some of these past cases, there were victims who came forward. Now, often they were bullied, they were discredited. In a couple of cases, they recanted their testimony. In the case of the Franklin Credit Union scandal, which occurred in the late 80s in Omaha, Nebraska, I can think of 3 people off the top of my head who were connected to that investigation who died. One in a plane, plane exploded over suburban Chicago. In another case, a former CIA director who'd been brought in to investigate an aspect. In fact, he investigated the plane crash, found up face down on a sandbar in the Chesapeake Bay. So I understand why victims may not be eager to come forward to present themselves, but to this point, there haven't been any allegations of any victims yet. And there are plenty of cases out there where there have been victims. Where even if nothing was proved in a court of law, there were at least people who appeared to be harmed by actual criminal activity. Now, having said all this, there are some disturbing things that have come out in recent weeks connected to players who are implicated or who are accused of being implicated in the so-called Pizzagate scandal. Specifically, Tony Podesta, who is the brother of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's former campaign chair, who has a very, shall we say, disturbing collection of art in his home. And this was openly reported in Time magazine. And John Podesta also has some of that art in his office, as campaign headquarters in the Bronx, showing in fact, I talked about it here on SkyWatchTV, an image of a guy in a business suit lying on a table with 2 other guys in business suits and knives and forks. And apparently he joked with his staff that it's better to be the guy with the fork than the guy on the table. Tony Podesta, his artwork at his home, reported on by the Washington Post years ago in what was supposed to be a puff piece, talking about the strange sculpture hanging over the foyer of the home, which was based on the death pose of one of the victims of cannibal killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Now that's disturbing. And I think it speaks to the state of Tony Podesta's mind and soul. But it doesn't connect him to any crime. All it proves is that he's got a disturbing taste in art.
And that's the thing, too, because Tom Horn and I have been really going and combing through all these Podesta emails and cataloging them, sorting them out. We've been doing this for months. And there are some extremely disturbing things in those emails. But so far, nothing really substantial that is connected with this scandal. Now, there is some stuff that could be that. So again, I'm not totally discounting all this. It could turn out that all this is true. But as far as where we are right now with the evidence that's available, there's nothing super concrete. But there is some disturbing things, like you just pointed out with the art.
Right, and I think the thing that we need to be careful about is that we're not jumping to conclusions and making a leap of logic and accusing people whose only crime may be that they happen to work for a guy who's been suspected of something that has not been proven through any evidence or not much less a court of law.
Yeah,
right.
and one good thing that may come about as a result of this latest event is, like you said, it's hitting more, the mainstream's taking a look at it. So I'm sure there will be opportunities for a thorough investigation into the allegations here. And either something's going to come of it, or they're going to say, look, guys, there's no evidence.
Well, the response of the mainstream media to this point has been to point to this as an example of fake news, which they are blaming for the election of Donald Trump. And of course, it's the Russians.
That actually brings up a question, too. And before we started taping, you brought up a really good point. But that brings up a question. Is it that people are so upset by this crime, or are they so upset because it's tied to Hillary Clinton? And you brought that question up before we taped, and you had some really great points to make on that.
Well, I think it's understandable that people were aghast that the Democratic Party nominated Hillary Clinton as its candidate. I mean, there are people in the Democratic Party who are honorable people. I mean, the former Senator James Webb, who was a Secretary of the Navy under Ronald Reagan, Democrat, served as senator from the state of Virginia. He would have been an excellent candidate in terms of a man who is competent, well-respected, and has a long and excellent track record of service. But because of her connections and the way she's played the game, I mean, Hillary is nothing if not shrewd.
Right.
She locked up and basically boxed out, to use a basketball term, boxed out all the other candidates before the campaign really even began. And I think the American public recognized that and was disgusted by that. And so the opportunity to possibly connect her to this kind of malfeasance is just too attractive a bait to ignore.
I agree.
But as Christians especially, we can't go there. Bearing false witness is something that God had a very strong opinion about. So now, look, I'm happy to investigate it. And I will admit that in the flesh, I would be more than happy to find something concrete that ties her to, and there's plenty there concerning her pay-for-play approach to using the Clinton Foundation, which is supposed to be a nonprofit charity to sell access to the United States government. And I think there's strong evidence to suggest that the mere fact that governments around the world, including Norway and Australia, are cutting their donations to the Clinton Foundation since the election says a lot about why they were actually paying or putting money into the Clinton Foundation.
And that brings up a good point, too, that we should focus on the things that actually have real evidence, real strong evidence to show that there's something there. Because in our country, there are pedophilia rings, and there are children being abused. Are they connected with the Clintons? Who knows? But this is actually happening. There is sex trafficking in our country. So where's the outrage for that, which has been documented in plenty of evidence? I mean, plenty of victims, millions of victims.
Right, and I think that's a good point to turn the conversation in that direction, because we could spend a lot of time, ranting on this. And I'll just say this final thing. We do have some evidence from the FBI indicating that there are certain symbols and logos that are used by pedophiles to signal to others in the community, these are my preferences, and so forth. And that is from an actual intelligence bulletin sent out by the FBI. But some of the code words and things that are being used as evidence to prove pedophile activity at the Comet Pizza, I've not seen a link to any authoritative source from, and once we start down the path of assuming that lack of evidence is proof of the cover-up instead of just lack of evidence, we could make this mean almost anything. But there are cases out there that are documented, and in fact, we've talked about that here on SkyWatchTV over this past year. Now, over the weekend, I had a conversation with our friend Gans Shimura, who's the director of the film Inhuman, about this case, and I got a little hot under the collar because I had just looked at some of the statistics of the programs that we aired on SkyWatch TV over the past year. And we did about half a dozen programs with a woman named Opal Singleton,
Yeah.
who's the CEO of millionkids.org.
Yeah, I remember that.
And those were extremely important
Right.
programs.
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, millionkids.org is the name of the is named for the approximate number of kids who are being trafficked in the United States at any given time.
Yep.
Secondly, she's dealing with active cases with law enforcement officers who are looking for children who are missing, trying to rescue kids from the type of life that internet researchers are accusing the Clinton associates in D.C.
Right.
of running and organizing. She's working with on actual cases with actual children who are actual victims of actual crimes.
Yeah.
And yet, when I looked at the statistics for those programs over the past year, those were among the least viewed programs on SkyWatch TV of the entire year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the other important point about what she's doing is that she makes it very clear that this is not a crime that's happening somewhere else,
Right.
at only among elites who are, operating in circles of influence that we will never ever touch.
Yeah.
This is happening in our neighborhoods and
Yeah.
possibly even in our families.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think what's happened with this latest Pizzagate thing is it's been sensationalized. Obviously, it's tied to to all these people high up in Washington, and so that's what has people so mesmerized by this topic. But you're right, a lot of these other legitimate cases, people don't seem to be as interested in being informed about that. So if you guys are out there watching today and you're interested in this topic and you want to learn more about it, we've got several programs. You know how far back, Derek? Or
It was over the summer,
Okay.
back in the summer months. But,
okay, so Opal Singleton.
Right.
If you look that up, please check those programs out because this is something I believe we do need to be educated on. It is still a problem in our nation.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing that shocked me when Opal came here, and you can vouch for this,
Oh, yeah.
you're very internet savvy. I mean, you manipulate social media much better than I do. And Sharon and I were early adopters in the internet. We met over the internet when only 20% of America was even wired.
Right.
Back in the 90s. So yeah, we're like the grandparents of social media. But when Opal was telling us the social media apps that kids are using, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that predators are using to get to our kids and our grandkids,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of most of them.
I haven't either. Yeah, about half of them were completely new to me, but there are millions upon millions of kids on these social media apps and sites. And because parents don't know, I mean, and I'm a parent and I didn't know about any of these,
Right.
but because most parents don't know about these things, it makes children easy targets in our own country and, like you said, in our own families.
Exactly.
That's what we need to focus on. That's the true importance. If people really want to help and want to expose something, get in touch with
Millionkids.org.
millionkids.org. You can donate money. I'm sure there's a way that you could help spread information, even if you don't have money to spare. But if you really want to get involved, and if this is something that God is really putting on your heart to deal with, then millionkids.org. And Opal Singleton is the woman that wrote, I believe her book was called Seduced.
Seduced, yes.
Yeah.
The grooming of America's teenagers. And
Yeah.
she gives presentations around the world. She's got a faith-based curriculum that can be used in your church to help educate the members of your church about this program of child trafficking. And some of the cases that she described to us were just horrific.
Yeah.
14-year-old girl sneaking out of her house at 1 o'clock in the morning. Dad just happened to hear the window go up and managed to catch her a quarter mile down the road as she was getting into a stranger's car. She thought she was meeting a 16-year-old to run off and live a happy life forever. Turns out the guy was like 28 from like 3 states away. Dad gave that guy a good pounding.
Yeah.
And then the police booked him. But even here in our little corner of the Ozarks, which is about as sheltered from this kind of thing, you would think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as there is in America. An hour east of us, a girl, about 14, which again is that time of life where their hormones overwhelm their frontal lobes, wound up in Cleveland and was missing for a week until she used her phone, and then police were able to trace the ping and find the guy that she met over the internet. But because we parents think, well, I've raised a good child, my kid wouldn't do something like this. Look, we can't be fooling ourselves in thinking that this isn't happening in our families and in our neighborhoods, because it is. This is not just something that's an internet conspiracy theory on the other side of the country. This is really happening. And frankly, that's why we at SkyWatch TV have partnered with Royal Family Kids.
Yeah.
And so that was why we wanted to take this opportunity today to talk about this. Yes, it's a story that's in the news, There's smoke here. Haven't seen the evidence to connect it to any fire yet. But it's getting all the attention when there are real kids. I mean, again, that's why Opal's ministry is millionkids.org. 1 million kids a year being trafficked, traded, bought and sold like baseball cards. And her ministry, when we bring her out and present her, gets no attention, or, well, virtually no attention. I know that there are many of you who did watch this program. I've gotten some email from people who heard the program I did over the weekend with Gons and said, you know, I watched the program, I actually donated to her ministry, and we appreciate that you had her on. But this is, frankly, the reason that SkyWatchTV even exists, and the reason that Whispering Ponies Ranch exists. It's not so Nita Horn can have fun playing with little horsies.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because these therapy animals will be used to help begin to heal children who have been through the hell that people are outraged about in a case that may or may not even exist.
Right.
But here we've got a facility that we're here to support. It's what drew Sharon and me to this venture. And the partnership between Whispering Ponies Ranch and Royal Family Kids. Royal Family Kids, if you've not, we've got programs coming up with the president and the founder of Royal Family Kids during the month of December on SkyWatch TV, so you'll have a chance to see those. They work with kids who are in foster care because they're coming out of situations like this, where their parents were unable to handle the responsibility, or perhaps using them to get drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And those kids come out nearly broken with emotional and spiritual scar tissue to keep anyone from hurting them ever again. And that's where Whispering Ponies Ranch and the therapy animals will help. And what we do at SkyWatch TV, yes, we do talk about topics that occasionally could be considered sensational. And we do sell some books and DVDs and things, but the proceeds are for Whispering Ponies Ranch, so that those kids, and for Royal Family Kids, doesn't have to pay a dime to bring those children to the ranch. So this is our message today.
Yeah.
And this was a spur-of-the-moment thing. This is our message. If this story, this Pizzagate story, makes you angry, as it should, and if other cases in the past and things that we've been covering, you know, Sharon and I on our podcast for the last 11 years, like the Franklin Credit Union scandal, the Finders scandal, which was a case in Tallahassee, Florida, that connected to a cult in Washington, D.C., where police went in and raided, and they found evidence that children were being sexually and ritually abused, satanic rituals, and horrific pictures, and telex communications coming from all over the world ordering children to be shipped across the world for the express purpose of sexual abuse. And when police were investigating, they were told by the U.S. State Department to stand down because it was a matter of national security. So we're not afraid to talk about these things. It really happens. It really goes on. But if you are moved to help, we encourage you to support the work of Opal Singleton, millionkids.org, and prayerfully consider supporting Royal Family Kids, rfk.org, or Whispering Ponies Ranch, because there are real victims of real crimes out there who need your help. And hashtag on social media, that only goes so far. Now, we appreciate you caring. And I don't mean to dominate this conversation, fellows, but if you guys have any final thoughts.
That about summed it up for me, and that really needs to be said, that real kids, there are real victims that actually need real help, where spreading things on social media just isn't going to do it. Spreading Pizzagate, hashtag Pizzagate on social media isn't going to do it. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the victims.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys are fathers of young children, and I see the smiles and the laughs of your kids, and it reminds me of our daughter, who's now in her mid-20s, and I just can't imagine anyone who'd do that to a kid.
Yeah, me too.
It's heartbreaking. It truly is. And, when you get past the sensationalism of just claims of these stories and you get back to the actual victims and what's happened with them, if you think about your own kids or, just maybe someone who went through a difficult time as a child. I mean, kids are very impressionable. They're in it. They're so innocent. They're so pure. And to think that someone would harm those, the Bible says it would be better for a man to have a millstone wrapped around his neck and cast into the sea. That's how God feels about it, and that's how us as parents feel about it too.
Amen. And that's, I think, evidence that there is intelligent evil out there that wants to destroy us.
Right.
Because clearly, to overcome the built-in desire that we have as parents to protect our children requires a supernatural influence, a supernatural evil. So, well, we appreciate you watching today. This is not a difficult, not an easy program to produce or to watch, we're sure, but we hope we made our point without coming across as scolding. That wasn't my intent when we sat down to record today, but again, we thank you for watching. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatchTV.
Coming exclusively from SkyWatchTV for a very limited time starting December 6, 2016. When you purchase the new 3-book special investigative research collection, Abaddon Ascending, Final Fire, and the Sheereth Imperative from SkyWatchTV.com, you'll receive the largest giveaway in SkyWatchTV history. An unprecedented value of over $400 in free books, DVDs, audio files, and the never-before-released data DVD library from Dr. Michael Lake on the Sheereth Imperative, which includes 56 Christian classic works on PDF. All 28 episodes in Dr. Michael Lake's Understanding the Kingdom audio series. The latest version of Eastward for Windows. The 3-part Into the Multiverse television series where Josh Peck interviews Dr. Michael Lake on the Sheereth Imperative. And nearly 3 hours of bonus interviews on video with Dr. Lake on the Sharpening Report. For your library or to give away as gifts. Also included in this biggest giveaway in SkyWatchTV history are Josh Peck's full-length 2016 DVD presentations, The Quantum Future and Extra-Dimensional UFOs. Dr. Michael Lake's full-length 2016 DVD presentations, Jericho, The Anatomy of a Stronghold, and The Shinar Directive. The new 5-part SkyWatchTV special investigative report on the books, Abaddon Ascending, Final Fire, and The Sheereth Imperative. But that's not all. You'll also receive the new Best of Skywatch Television on DVD. Over 5.5 hours of the most popular episodes in Skywatch TV history. Travel through the multiverse on the new Best of Into the Multiverse on DVD. Over 5 hours of audio with Josh Peck on the coming Technocalypse. The best-selling book, The Final Roman Emperor. An incredible 5-year subscription to the Skywatch magazine. 2 brand new free gift books, and the never-before-released data DVD library from Dr. Michael Lake on the Sheereth Imperative. For your library or to give away as gifts, an unprecedented value of over $400 in never-before-offered free products. This is the biggest giveaway in Skywatch TV history, and it's yours absolutely free when you purchase the new 3-book special investigative research collection, Abaddon Ascending, Final Fire, and the Sheereth Imperative for only $39.95 plus shipping from SkyWatchTV.com, beginning December 6, 2016. But be advised, this astonishing promotion is limited to first come, first serve while supplies last. So it's urgent that beginning December 6, 2016, you place your order for the new 3-book special investigative research collection. This offer is on a limited time basis and will end without notification. So be sure to visit SkyWatchTV.com to follow the updates. In the countdown to the biggest giveaway in Skywatch TV history, the unprecedented value of over $400 in never-before-offered free products while supplies last. For more details, log on to SkyWatchTV.com.